Hey friends, it's me, and this video, as promised, is going to be the shielding and also, I felt, the setup on the Harley Benton SC450 coming up in this episode. So I've been promising for a while, and you've been looking forward to seeing the setup on this guitar, which is a really nice Harley Benton. I haven't had much luck with the RMA with Thomann because every single time they email me, I don't seem to get the RMA number. So anyway, this hasn't got any worse. I'll probably polish it out and we'll just forget about it. So I thought today, rather than just shielding the guitar, which I'd like to talk to you about a little bit, I would also just quickly go back over the process of setting up an electric guitar properly, just because I thought it might be interesting. So that's what we'll do. And before I go into that, I just want to say that on the past few videos with the CST24 and also on the previous PRS SE Custom 24 with the blonde neck guitar, I played a riff on that, which was something like, and everybody's been asking about that riff. It was just something I made up because it actually played all across the neck. Didn't go right up the top, obviously, but it played all the way across the neck. But everybody's been asking about it and tabs for it, so that is a rough idea of the tabs, which are now in the description and linked in the description of those videos. So if you're interested in playing that, please feel free to go and have a look. So before we get onto the shielding, we're going to do a quick setup, and I'm going to go over that in 5 easy steps, and I'll tell you what those steps are now, and then you can decide to skip to the areas in the video which relate to each of these steps so you can see them in a bit more detail. Number 1, very, very simple. Before you do a setup, always change your strings, give them a good stretch, get them in tune. Number 2, you have to work on straightening the neck. For that, in a moment, we're going to take off the truss rod cover plate and we're going to adjust the truss rod so that we get the neck nice, and we just need enough relief in the neck is the second stage, because without the correct relief in the neck, stages 3, 4 and 5 do not work. The next area we won't be worrying about on this, because this is an ABR1 type bridge, or an ABR type bridge, which doesn't have individually height adjustable saddles. But if you're working on guitar that has adjustable saddles in the bridge, then you want those saddles to be the same radius as your neck. So you would raise and lower the various heights of the saddles where they're height adjustable in order to make sure that they match the radius, of your fingerboard, your neck. Then the next stage, number 4, is to set the action, which on this is very simply 2 screws, crosshead screws on these, what we will call metric style bridges, which is similar to what the Gibsons have on them and also what most of the Epiphones have on them. That's step 4. And then finally, and a lot of people start with this, which is totally putting the cart before the horse, the last thing you do with a setup is set the intonation, because the intonation will be affected by straightening the neck, by raising and lowering the bridges, the bridge pieces, and all of that good stuff, and also the action, raising and lowering the action, will all affect the intonation. So the very last step, number 5, is the intonation. So without further ado, we'll get over and get going on that.
One man, one channel, one desire for truth about quality guitars. China Guitar Sceptic.
Number one, we've already done that. We've already changed the strings on this because I changed them on it to do the demo and the comparison between this and the Gibson. So I don't need to do that. These are relatively new strings. They've been played in a bit, so it's as good as a good stretch. Couple of tunes, and that brings me on to the tools that we will need for this job. First and foremost, most importantly, we will need a tuner, both to make sure that the tension is correct at concert pitch, so that we're setting the guitar up when it's under the correct amount of strain, and also so that we can later check the intonation and set the intonation. You'll need the Allen keys, or Allen wrenches for my American and Canadian friends, that came with the guitar, so that you can adjust truss rod and various other things. On some of them you will have a intonation Allen key or a screw, and you need it for that. But on this it's very straightforward. They are just screw heads on the front like any other ABR type bridge. We'll also need a flathead screwdriver to adjust up and down on the tailpiece in this case, and also to set the action on the bridge pins. So that's nice and straightforward. We'll also need a crosshead screwdriver to get this truss rod cover off, and also last but not least, never forgetting a glass of something that will make you enjoy the process. Cheers. So first things first, we've done number one, strings. So next thing we want to do is straighten the neck. And the way to check if you've got a bowed neck, either backwards or forwards, is to check the neck relief. And the easiest way to do that is to fret at the first and last frets, and you should be able to tap out another note on a couple of frets in. But as you can hear there, with that really high noise, and also there, the fact that we've got no ring through, that means that this neck is either flat or it's bowed forward, which means that we've got to put some relief into it. Sorry, bowed backwards. And we've got to put some relief into it because we need the neck to do, in exaggeration, this, so that the strings run across and that they don't fret out on any of the centre of the neck. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the truss rod cover, and we're going to expose this truss rod. And these are two-way truss rods on these Harley Bentons. Usually I have a little box for these screws, but today not so lucky, forgot to put one by, but we won't lose them because they'll be just here on the sofa beside me. And so once we've got all those screws out, if I can get it from between these strings, that's a bit hard to get out. Okay, definitely unscrewed all the way. That's better, got it. And then that truss rod cover will just slide off, easy peasy. VT for vintage series, we'll leave that screwdriver down there because we won't need that again. Look at the state of that in there. Not fantastic, is it? Never mind. So now we know that this is fretting out, so it means that the neck is slightly bowed back or it's completely flat, and we need to pull it forward a bit, which means that we need to put in our truss rod adjuster. And what we need to do, if you've got it laying across your lap so that it's in playing position, on a double action truss rod like this, just move that string out of the way. In order to bring the neck forward, you want to push the Allen wrench away from you, down towards the higher strings, down towards 3, 4, 5 and 6. And actually that had a bit of tension on it, and now it's gone loose. And I'm guessing, yeah, still no relief on that neck. So I'm going to give it another turn until it starts to tighten. So it was obviously pulling the neck backwards, and now I've got the truss rod cover working the other way, truss rod working the other way, and I can feel that already starting to add some tension. So there's a little bit more like it's giving us a note there. So I'm just going to give it another quarter turn. You can start to hear that. and it's still not there. So I'm just going to give it another quarter turn, which will make about a half turn in total on that, and hopefully now we're starting to get, we have got enough neck relief on that now. I know the top high E string didn't sound like it was, but I bet now if I put it up like this, take the gravitational effect away from it, that we'll have, there we go. So now we have the correct straight, or I should say relieved neck. That's a neck relief done. We move on to part 3, which is the string radius to the neck. Now we can do nothing with this on this guitar because there is no adjustment. Let me bring it up to the camera. There's no adjustment on the saddle pieces or on this bridge. But what I can tell you is that the next thing is the action. And at the moment, that action is pretty high. And I think we should be able to get away with bringing that down a little bit. So I'm just going to do that. And again, this will be a case of getting, actually this will be a case of getting a slightly narrower flathead screwdriver out of, oh, there, none of them are narrow enough. I will have to go and get a narrower flathead screwdriver because this one, oh, it does fit. It does fit. I tell a lie. Now, so we should find that just tightening this up will screw the bridge posts further into the body. And what I'm going to do is just check that I'm not going too far and causing this to fret out. Just going to lower it enough that we can get away with it. And also it's well worth testing by doing a bend, because oftentimes, especially if you've got a radiused bridge and that matches the radius of the neck, when you actually pull a bend on the strings, it takes it up and over that radius, and that can cause fretting out. But this is pretty good, and actually, I'll leave that stuck in there a minute. That action is now a bit lower than I usually like. But we're going to lower it right the way down. By the way, these are great little tools, these multi-screw things. This one's a Stanley one. There are other brands. So let's lower the bass side of this bridge. And of course, this will be really easy to do, as you've just heard. Whoa, man, don't do that again. Whoops. This will be easier to do because certainly laid down like this, number one, you will hear it going flat, but also when you get the bridge down lower, it will tend to buzz. So I tend to adjust these down, and as I'm doing it, I just tend to tune back up again. So now I've got quite a good turn on that, and this action is going to be out of tune. Of course it's going to be out of tune. We need to tune it up, and also this action is now quite a bit lower than I usually like. So I'm going to pause the video, I'm going to tune it up, and then we'll move on to number 5, setting the intonation. So I've given this a very rough tune up. In fact, it's pretty much in tune. Now, the way to check your intonation, hopefully you can see that and I can see it, is to hit the harmonic on the 12th fret, which should be in tune or close to it. Okay, perfect D. And then you gently fret on the 12th fret. Now that is absolutely perfect because, well, it's not showing it there because there we go, perfect E, and then perfect D again. In fact, they're both a little flat, but they're in exactly the same position. Now, if your harmonic note needs to be tuned, and if your fretted note is lower than your harmonic note, i.e. it's somewhere down there, that simply means that the distance between the 12th fret and the bridge is longer than the distance between the nut and the 12th fret, because the 12th fret is exactly in the middle of the guitar, in the middle of the scale length. So all that means is that this saddle needs bringing closer to the 12th fret to shorten that distance and put the pitch up. If, when you fret out and play the note, it's higher than the harmonic, which is absolutely in the perfect centre of the neck, if it's higher, then that means that distance there is shorter than the distance between the 12th fret and the nut. So we need to make it longer by moving the saddle away. Now, as it happens, I've checked this guitar through, and we'll show you, get them in tune, but this is pretty much all intonated. The A is a little bit lower when it's fretted out, which indicates to me that this length here is a little longer than this length here. So what we need to do is we'll just move this off so that we can get in there, and we need to bring that saddle just a little bit back towards us this way. So just watching that move. I've just turned that clockwise to tighten it up and to bring the saddle forward a touch. So we'll tune it up again. And now, as you can see, that intonation on the A is perfect. And the E is perfect as well. So it was only the A that needed changing on that. And that, folks, is the full setup on the guitar. So now this guitar, once it's tuned back to concert pitch, will be intonated, properly set up, and the action is quite nice and low now. So all I'm going to do is put the truss rod cover back on. I've left that off in case there was any adjustment needed once we got it up to pitch, intonated, and the string heights where we wanted them. But now that we've got all of that in place, this truss rod cover can go back on, and we will get on with the shielding. Now, I'm going to tell you a few things about shielding. And first and foremost, a big myth is that shielding is only for RF, radio frequency interference and signals in the signal path. But that's not true. And in fact, one of the biggest problems that shielding actually won't resolve is mains hum. That's 50 if you're in the UK, or 60 Hertz if you're in the US, mains hum. So what we are actually doing when we shield a guitar is we are connecting a cage, a metal cage, right the way around anything that could possibly pick up interference, either from mains hum or from radio frequencies, or even from overhead fluorescent light tubes can do it. They're in fact one of the worst. And all we're trying to do is create what's called a Faraday cage around all of the electronics. However, we will do it on this guitar just for demonstration purposes, but if your wiring is not shielded, i.e. got a metal casing around the outside that's connected to your earth, it's all for pretty much nothing anyway. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you some pictures of this guitar. And again, the other thing that's a bit of a myth is humbucking pickups already have their casing connected to the earth. So they are already in their own Faraday cage, as it were. What we're going to do is we're just going to quickly open this guitar up. I'm going to take the strings off. And I've done this video already, so excuse me if I look like I've changed into different clothes, but I've done that video some time ago. And what I'm going to show you in the coming photos and videos is me taking this guitar, taking it apart, and I've been shielding the pickup cavities, and again the adjusters here are touching the shielding so that grounds it out. And I have done the pickup selector cavity, and as you can probably see from the gold around the edge there, the control cavity as well. Now, a lot of people wire and solder an earth cable onto the shielding, but if it's touching the back of the pots and the whole casing of the pot is earthed and shielded anyway, as you know, because you'll connect that in your wiring. And similarly with the pickup selector, the body of the pickup selector itself is always wired to earth. So provided that is touching the foil in this case, then it's creating a earth contact. The key thing is to remember to put your foil on the back of your plates as well. I forgot to say, this is the stuff that I use to shield guitars. It's just copper foil and it's got a sticky back to it. And it really is just for convenience. You can get shielding paint, which is quite expensive, especially to do one guitar, so it's not really worth it unless you're going to do multiple guitars. You can get this stuff, which is copper foil with a sticky back. And I've seen plenty of people, and I've done it back in the day, with aluminium foil, or as my American and Canadian friends would say, aluminum foil. Easy peasy. Stop making those funny Japanese polished balls of aluminum foil. Use it if you've got nothing else to do your shielding in your guitars. So let's go over and have a little musical interlude and watch me doing that.
If you're going to play guitar, play it on the real guitar, not on the Chinese toothpick. How do you know the difference? Watch China Guitar Sceptic.
Okay, so there we have the properly set up and shielded guitar. Now, shielding on single coils will never get rid of mains hum, I'm afraid, because of the fact that that's intrinsic in their nature. And in fact, the hum cancelling from humbuckers, which is where humbucking comes from, is because of the reduction of interference between the two different polarities on the two separate coils that are in the humbucking pickup. So it's very, very difficult. I have seen a video where somebody has earthed out the back of the pole pieces, the magnets, and achieved some good results with that, but you are never going to get away from mains hum on single coils. But this now, just with the shielding I have done and putting a Faraday cage inside the control cavity and inside this pickup switch, and the very, very limited amount of difference that shielding the pickup cavities has made, this now is utterly silent. I hope you've really enjoyed this video. I'm going to be back soon with the Harley Benton bass playthrough, and I'm also going to do another video comparing the new Harley Benton CST24 PRS style Harley Benton compared with the Chinese knockoff, and also with my SE24 custom with the blonde maple fingerboard. So if you're enjoying these videos, please give it a like. If you really like it, do think about subscribing if you're not already, and click that bell icon to get notified of my new videos as they come out. It really is all about you folks, so please give me your comments, let me know your suggestions for future videos, and I will try and do as much as I can to do the videos and content that you guys want, because you're what it's all about. Thanks as always for watching, and you take good care.